In this video, we'll add both of our census tract data and our housing data to our map and join our housing data attributes to our shapefile. In the Insert tab, click the New Map button to open a new map window. Go to the Catalog pane and find the two folders that we added to our Data folder. If you had your project open while downloading the new data, you may need to refresh the Data folder connection. You can do this simply by right-clicking on the folder icon and select the Refresh button. Go ahead and open up the census tract data that we downloaded and click and drag the shapefile into our map. Our housing and demographic data will be in the folder that starts with ACS. Notice that there are three files in here. The one that we want to join is the CSV that says Data with Overlays. Notice that there's another one with metadata in the title, and we'll use this later. Once they've both been added to the map, go ahead and open the attribute table for each of them. Notice that each of the attribute tables has a similar field called Geoid. One of them has geo_id and one of them has just Geoid. Notice that each has very similar values. However, you might catch that the housing data Geoid is significantly longer than the Geoid in our census tract data. This is because the housing data Geoid has also concatenated the state FIPS code. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to immediately join the CSV to our shapefile without a perfect match of the Geoid numbers, so we need to add another step into the process. We'll need to add a new field and title it Geoid and use the field calculator to get rid of the unnecessary characters. However, the Add Field button is grayed out currently, so let's first export our CSV as a DBF table into our geodatabase. By right-clicking on the CSV table and click Export, we can now save it as housing data in our geodatabase. Now open the attribute of the new table called housing data and click the Add Field button. Set the name to Geoid and let's select the data type that will match our census tract Geoid data. When we hover over the Geoid field in the census tract data, a pop-up will tell us what the data type is, and it says text. So let's go back to the new field and select text as our data type. Once you've selected text, click Save. Now in the housing data attribute table, we can see a new field called Geoid at the very end. Right-click on the Geoid field to quickly access the Calculate Field tool. You can also search for this in the Analysis toolbox. We're going to need to write a Python expression that will transfer over the geo_id field, but remove the unnecessary characters. Double-click on the geo_id name in the field box, then search for where it says .replace in the helpers box. This replace function will allow us to replace any specific characters that we specify. In the parentheses, we'll add the text that we want to replace in our field, and this should be represented in quotes. Go ahead and type in 14 and then 5 zeros, then US. The U and S should be capitalized. You can also just copy and paste from the housing data field. Next, add a comma, and then lastly, put 2 more quotations with no spaces in between them. If it looks exactly like it does on my screen, when you click Run, all the values should be populated into the Geoid field. Essentially, the function is going to select all the text before the actual Geoid that we want and replace it with an empty string. You should now have 11-digit Geoid codes in your housing data attribute table. And notice that between the census tract shapefile and the housing data table, we should have matching Geoid values. Now that we've taken care of that step, let's go ahead and join the data. Go to the Geoprocessing toolbar and search for the Add Join tool. Select our census tract data and choose the Geoid for our input join field. Then select the housing data for our join table. And the join field for that should also be Geoid. Make sure that the Keep All Target Features box is unchecked. Then click Run. You should see a majority of our Oregon census tracts disappear after this. This is because it is only leaving behind the census tracts that accurately joined from our housing data to our census tract data. Right-click on the tract layer to save it to our geodatabase. Lastly, let's remove all the unnecessary layers, the original layers that we had before, and leave just the ones that we have saved in our geodatabase. Then click Save. In the next video, we will calculate the percentage of housing insecurity for our census tract data in Lane County.